Well, good evening, everyone. It's Al with Longoria House Dog Training. Hey, thanks so much for watching our live show tonight. I'm going to wait a couple of moments as everybody gets logged in. But if this is your first time watching one of these, if you're watching this after the event or if you're watching this 200 years in the future, hey, well, welcome. The year is 2018, and I'm Al Longoria. I'm a dog trainer from Houston, Texas. I do a lot of different things. I help people raise their dogs. That's the big thing that I do, but I also like to compete with my own dogs. So yeah, if you're watching this in the future, like, 300 years from now, hey, it was, I'm long gone, but nice seeing you. Let me just make sure that everything is going right on the technical side over here, making sure that this live stream is actually happening. I say, howdy Mandy, howdy Rob, howdy Mom. Okay, let's see. Yep, looks like it's working. Fantastic. So I've got a lot of things to talk about tonight. If at some point we're going to change the perspective on these, we're going to get it off of my beautiful face, and I'm going to be able to show you all the different things that I have in front of me. But man, I've got a ton of stuff here just because I want to get real practical with today's training session. One thing that I'm actually thinking about that I hadn't shared with you guys is that we now have, if you've probably seen some of the videos, but we now have this really very, very nice virtual reality camera. And I do want to use that to actually film some of these live shows because I want to do something unique with it that, that actually just doesn't exist right now. But the problem right now with my VR camera is that when I try to go live with it, that it has this very, very loud fan that's part of the computer that makes it work. And so if I have any audio like I do here, that audio is completely lost when I live stream just from the camera. So I'm saving up a little bit of money, waiting to get a nice lapel mic that I can be wireless and be able to do that. My setup, if you're wondering what my setup is, I've got this, I've got a little tripod here that my iPhone 8 Plus is on, and then I've got a microphone that's made specifically for the iPhone to try to give me this nice audio. But hey, thanks for each and every one of you guys that's watching this. If I hadn't already said it, if you have any questions at any point in time, you can leave those in the comment section down below, and I'm definitely happy to go over any of those. Any question that you have, I'm definitely going to try to give you as an in-depth and most detailed answer that I possibly can to give you, to bring value and to really help you with your dog, so that way you're not struggling. And if any questions that you have, so I've got just a couple of pages worth of notes here and things that I'm going to go over. So the first thing that I actually want to go over is, what do you actually do when your male dog actually starts marking inside of your home? Okay. So, it's pretty common. You're actually going to see this behavior begin to crop up in dogs around the time that they're about 8 months old to a year old. There is one sure way to get rid of them actually marking inside your home, and that is to neuter your dog before 6 months. Don't do that. Do not neuter your dog before 6 months. If you want to know why, hey, just send me a message and I'll give you plenty of reasons of why we do not recommend neutering your male dog at 6 months. But if you wanted to eliminate your dog from marking, you would neuter them very early, and that would not allow the secondary sex characteristics of any male gender species to begin to do any of those male behaviors. Okay, so your dog's already marking. What do? Well, the first thing you're going to need to do is you're going to really have to be very disciplined with yourself about how much freedom your dog is getting inside of the home. Okay, that's really where it's at, because the dog is going to, be opportunistic. They say, oh, the back of the couch smells like urine. That's a place that I should mark. Oh, there was a female dog scent kind of there that you rubbed off on some tree outside. Oh, I should go there. Because we can't pick up on scent the way that a dog can, if their nose receives a signal that that's the place to go, they're going to begin to go there. So you're going to have to be very, very vigilant inside your home about, watching your dog, probably keeping your male dog on a leash, keeping them on their place quite a bit. But here's the one thing that I recommend. I'm going to get a little funny, but I'm going to bring some practicality to it. One thing that I would do as a guy, if I wanted to teach my male dog what to mark, I would go right in my backyard, pee exactly where I wanted the dog to pee, bring the male dog over, have him sniff my pee, and then when he does that, I'd be like, hey man, that's where I want you to go. The smell of urine, okay, is going to tell the dog that that's where you're going to go. How many times have you seen your dog go to the fire hydrant, go somewhere else that the dog is actually using the restroom, and do the same thing? So what I want you to actually do if you're struggling with your dog that's marking inside the home is I want you to actually show them where you want them to use the restroom, whether it's in your backyard, whether it's in your walk, wherever it is in the your daily comings and goings, where should the dog be going? So you need to begin to show the dog that's where you want, and you need to begin to reinforce the dog very heavily each and every time that they do that. And you need to eliminate all the opportunities for the dog to actually mark inside your home. Now, if you guys have ever heard me talk about potty training before, I've always told you that I do not want you to correct your dog if they have a potty accident inside your home. And that still holds true even right now. But if your dog is marking in your home, and that is a different behavior, your dog is marking in your home, you can correct. You literally only have 1.5 seconds. You literally only have 1.5 seconds to correct your dog from the moment that they finish peeing. And if you don't have a remote collar on your body, in your hand, to tell them no when they do that, when they're marking your territory, you're too late. Don't do it, okay? And I would just recommend to you, I don't know if I would set the dog up for me to teach him I don't want you to mark in the home. I would really just very, very heavily focus on teaching the dog that I only want you to mark outside and then really manage them inside the home. So hey, those are my tips for getting your dog to stop marking inside your home. It can be troublesome. I would look to continue this kind of regimen with a dog for about a month or so, okay? So it has to be pretty structured. And yes, if you do catch your dog in the act, please, please, please tell them that they're in trouble. Make sure they get in trouble and reward them for when they get it right. So one of my clients right now, they're actually working on teaching their dog how to go into the crate. Let me kind of set you up for what's already happened, okay? We've already actually taken the crate, we folded the front down, we folded the back down, and it's kind of just like a tunnel now. And we put the dog's food in there. So we've been putting the dog's food in there for a little over a week, and now the dog is not so hesitant about going inside the crate. This tip that I'm giving right now is not for your typical dog. It's really for the dog that, that you're really, really struggling to get into a crate, or that you need to kind of assimilate them into a crate over a longer period of time. So step one, like I said, is knock down the front and the back of the crate, and it's just going to be kind of a tunnel. And as you do that, I want you to put food. Maybe the first day you actually spread the dog's food across the bottom panel and allow the dog to go in and out, in and out. So now she's much further along, and what the dog is doing now is the back gate is closed, the door is open, and then the dog is going all the way in and eating its food. They've also added a blanket in there, and by adding that blanket, it's making it more comfortable. They haven't closed the door. Well, it's been about 2 weeks since they started this process. It's well enough time to go ahead and close the door. But here's one thing that I would do. I just had a video on YouTube just a few days ago about the Kong. So what I would do is I would make a Kong like the one I mentioned in that video. I would get the dog into the crate that now they're enjoying it, and I would give them the Kong that's filled with all this yummy goodness, and then when the dog's in there, close the door and allow them to enjoy the Kong inside the crate. And I think that's going to work really, really well. Okay, so again, this tip is not for your typical dog that's going to go in very easily. This tip is really more for those dogs that struggle with getting in the crate. They have a lot of anxiety. This is really going to help you diminish all the anxiety on the front end, and then you just continue to practice and build the dog up to it. But you do need to spend quite a bit of time in this technique. This technique that I just described really does require quite a bit of patience on our part to do that. And if you have a destructive dog, this may not be the right tip for you. So I get a lot of questions. On how do I get my dog to fetch. So here's what you're looking at, okay? When I think about fetching for the dog, there's several skills that I want the dog to know. And all of these are going to need to be reinforced. I need the skill of holding an object in their mouth. That one should be easy for most dogs. I need the skill of the dog letting go, okay? I need the skill of the dog holding on to it. Well, I said, okay, so holding on to it calmly, bringing it to me, letting it go. But I also need the skill of the dog moving away, grabbing the item, turning around and coming back. So that is actually where I start. One of the very first things that I teach any of my clients, and I would heavily recommend teaching any of your dogs, is the treat toss game. Because inside the treat toss game, you're going to throw a piece of food away from you towards like your front door, and your dog's going to go chasing after it. And then when your dog puts their mouth on it, and then you call their name, they come back, and you start getting this cycle of out and back, out and back, out and back. So that is actually where I start with, teaching the dog to fetch with food, because there's no possession. The dog doesn't get occupied like, oh, hey, I've got this ball and I'm not going to let it go. The dog is just doing this very easy game of going away, hearing its name, coming back, and everybody is happy. Now, here's where I begin to differ just a little bit. I then personally introduce the remote collar, but at this point, some people may want to actually introduce the long line. It doesn't matter which one of these two pressure tools that you use, but I would definitely do it. So as I have the dog moving away and coming back, moving away and coming back, with the remote collar, what I end up doing with the dog is as they're moving away from me to go get the food on a very low level, like what you see right there, that's like a level 7, okay? And you have to kind of know that level for your dog, but let's just say it's a 7, okay? I would press it as the dog's moving away. When they pick up the food, I would call them, and then when they turn, I would let it go. So that thing again is, the dog moves away, I press the button, they pick up the piece of food, I call them, they turn, I let go. And that's right there going to really begin to help the dog to understand that, hey, you do have to come back. You could do the same thing with the leash. You're holding the leash, the dog moves away, and as you call the dog's name, the leash is there, then you put tension on the leash. When the dog turns, you slack it. It's the exact same thing that the remote collar does, but the remote collar can't get tangled, okay? But the remote collar can't give you physical control like the line, so there's a little bit of trade-off right there. So I start that to teach my dogs to fetch. But then the next step after I've taught the treat toss game, I've taught them with pressure to turn around and come back, then I introduce two of the balls that we were just talking about. I'll throw one of the balls, and then as they're going out to get it, I'll press the button on the remote, I'll call the dog, and then as soon as the dog turns with the ball in his mouth, I let go. When they come back, I have a second ball, I throw that one. Are you starting to see the pattern there? The dog's going out and back, and every time that I call the dog, right before I do it, there's a little bit of pressure. We call, the dog turns, the pressure goes away. But there's always reward for the dog when they come back. There's no pressure, there's a lot of praise, and then they get a chance to chase after another ball. And as you begin to do this, you're going to see your dog be like, oh, wow, I really, really understand the game. One thing that I do that I would do for if I was any of you guys, or if you're new to dog training, is I would actually have just a short leash on the dog. If you're not going to use a long leash or even the remote collar, I would just go about and have a leash on the dog to help them if they get stuck. Remember, as you're teaching this, to keep your patience with your dog, because it's very easy, like you really want them to do it and you're kind of frustrated that they're not learning it. Take your time, take a couple of steps back and do that. But look, hey, that's kind of a very detailed explanation for fetch. Here's some good news. There is a good population of dogs that will automatically fetch. I met one of them today. I didn't have to teach any of that because the dog's genetics already told them how to do it. But that piece of advice that I was given is really for those dogs that maybe have no idea how to fetch. They're not natural retrievers, or they just love to play, get the ball, they'll go get it, and then they run around the yard while you're screaming their name and they're running away from you, right? So that's who that technique is for. So if your dog already knows how to do those things, hey, that's absolutely great. Okay, but okay, well, many dogs are actually very good natural retrievers. So the next question, when do I actually stop training? So I never do. I never stop training. You know, I've got Fritz right here. I've got Gabby right here. We're training every single day. We're training every day. The good thing about our dogs, is that once they actually know how to do something, even if it's something that they're bad, like, you know, that you don't really like, once they're good at it, it's hard to get them to change. It's not impossible, but it's hard. So if you start training real early, then you get to actually practice the things that they're good at, which is amazing. You know, there's certain things that I'm really good at, and there's certain things that I'm not so good at. And I just know from a human habit standpoint that if I continue to practice the things that I'm really good at, I just keep getting better and better at those. But, you know, and your dog is the same way. If your dog is really good at their stay, if they're good at their coming when called, if they're good at, you know, biting the bad guy or whatever it is, or, you know, finding the bomb or finding the particular scent, whatever it is that you're teaching your dog, when they form those habits, the power of the habit will keep the dog doing those same things over and over again. So you do keep training, but it's easy. And who doesn't like easy, right? So that's really the truth. But that's kind of the macro picture, okay? What's the macro of when do you stop training? You never do. You stop training once your dog goes to doggy heaven, right? So when do you actually stop training in a day? Well, you have to make that call. My advice to you is to train as much as you possibly can. And people always tell me, well, Al, my puppy can only keep attention for so long. You're right. You don't need all your training to be focused on just attention. You need a lot of your training to actually just be passive. Like, hey, how can you be in a room sitting down at a table with your dogs calmly in a down and they're not necessarily under command? That's a form of practice, and that's kind of the lifestyle. So you got to look at, you know, when do you actually finish practicing? Whenever it suits you. Let me give you one more guide, okay? If you're real busy and you can't even keep like a side eye on your dog, put your dog away. It's okay to put your dog in a crate, but keep your dog out with you the majority of the time and on leash in the beginning, so that way you can really influence them and they can understand what it is that you want them to do. Now, how do I get a dog to stop pulling on the leash? So let's just describe why they actually pull on the leash. What makes a dog pull on a leash? Well, it's the excitement of running free. You know, that is very rewarding. It could also be all the interesting smells that are out in the environment. The dog's like, wow, this is just really cool. So to stop anything, to stop any kind of behavior, that is by definition, we're going to have to use punishment. So, but there's different kinds of punishment, okay? So the two main ways that I want you to think about punishing any behavior like leash pulling is that you got to frustrate. That can actually work for some dogs, okay? But you might also have to make them uncomfortable. That doesn't mean hurt them or cut them, but that does mean that they might have to feel some pressure and they may not like it. And that's actually a good thing, because being uncomfortable punishes behaviors particularly well. Okay, so let's start with a very simple technique. As you're walking along with your dog, I want you to think of the front of your body like there's a line across the front of your body. And as you're doing that, as you're walking, if the dog gets in front of you, okay, what I want you to do with your leash is I want you to pressurize your leash, pull the dog all the way back behind you while you keep the leash pressurized, and once they're back by your side fully, and notice how I'm putting so much emphasis on this, once they're back all the way by your side, slack the leash completely, just keeping a little bit around your hand, and they go out in front of you again, pull them back again. I want you to do this 20 times in a row. Yep. And that's going to require quite a bit of patience from you. What you're effectively trying to do is you're trying to draw a boundary, and that boundary is the front of your body. You will let the dog get in front of you simply so you can apply leash pressure, pull them back with leash pressure, and then slack it when they're right by your side, and then continue to move. That's technique number one to get your dog to stop pulling on the leash. Not so easy, and I will demonstrate that soon, so you guys can see what that looks like. Technique number two. So you've got a nice slack leash on your dog, and your dog darts all the way to the end. Do not pull your dog back with both of your arms as you yell. As your dog darts ahead, do not pull your dog back with the leash with both arms to the front of your body. Don't do that. All I want you to do is you're going to take that leash that's around your left hand, could be your right, left is better. Stick your hand in your pocket when your dog darts out to the end. Walk the other way as quickly as you can for the first 5 steps. What's probably going to happen to you is the dog is going to dart the other way that you're going now ahead of you. And as it does that, turn around again. Let's just say you do that 5 or 6 times. If you do both of these techniques where you draw the dog back with the leash every time they get in front of you and they're really behind you when you slack the leash, and you also turn around and your dog is still pulling, you have the wrong collar on your dog. Yep. So the collar could be the thing that actually finally communicates to your dog. And just a second, Gabby, let me see if I can get her over here. Gabby, so if your dog is pulling on the leash and your dog happens to have a buckle collar, if your dog happens to have a buckle collar each time that they pull on the leash, you're not gonna win. Okay, if they pull and you've got this thing on there, okay, then they're gonna keep pulling. So what do you need at this point? Well, I'm going to show you some different things, and I'm going to tell you each one of these is going to work a little bit different. This is one of the reasons why you want a pro looking at your dog, but you can do it if you're patient. So let's show you one tool. Everybody probably knows what this is. That's a prong collar. But did you know that there's a difference between this prong collar and this prong collar? This is a 3 millimeter Herm Sprenger prong collar. This is a 2 1/4 millimeter Herm Sprenger prong collar. This collar and this collar, the only difference is the size, and when you put them on the dog, it has nothing to do with the size of your dog. It has everything to do with how much your dog pulls. The dog that pulls incessantly actually gets the smaller prong collar. The dog that maybe pulls some on the flat buckle collar, okay, probably gets this one. So like, let's say you have a very heavy puller, okay? If you have a very heavy puller and your dog is on this, but this won't fit around your dog, guess what you do? You buy this, you buy the Herm Sprenger 2 1/4 millimeter prong collar, plus the extra tips that I'm holding here. And look, I don't know if you noticed, but I'm using a name brand. The reason I'm using a name brand is because there's actually prong collars out there that don't work and they can injure your dog. I've been using Herm Sprenger prong collars for years now, over a decade, and they're great collars. Never injured a dog with one, okay? They are uncomfortable if your dog pulls hard, but just understand that the discomfort is actually going to be the thing that tells your dog to pull less. Hey, Emily, I see you have a question right there. I use the gentle leader and he still pulls. You know, the gentle leader is just that. It's a leading. It leads the dog. I want to be real clear, and I don't know if you heard this in the beginning, Emily, but punishment is actually the reduction of the rate of a behavior. It's kind of like a clinical term, okay? So don't think it's punishment as like making the dog sad or hurting its feelings. It has some basis in that. But if you have a gentle leader on the dog, what the dog's going to do is when it gets to the end, the gentle leader is going to flip the dog back around, okay? If your dog continues to pull after getting flipped and flipped and flipped by the gentle leader, they are tolerating the pressure that the gentle leader puts on the dog because it is not a firm leader, it is a gentle leader. You know, nobody turns away from a gentle leader. Everybody goes into a gentle leader, if you catch the play on words. So, but Emily, the main thing that you want to get out of using or trying to teach your dog to walk with you is not so much setting the boundary, which is what we're talking about right now, but how much time does the dog actually spend by your left-hand side behind you getting rewarded? And a reward that's actually meaningful for the dog, not necessarily rewarding for you. It's something that the dog would enjoy. So like if you cut up a whole bunch of hot dogs and you fed one sliver of a hot dog at a time for the dog being on your left slightly behind you, and you did that for like 3 or 4 weeks, your dog would begin to walk behind you. Who wouldn't, right? Which dog wouldn't do that? So the leashes and collars only set the boundaries. They're the container for the behavior, but the stuff that you do with the dog when they're inside the container, that's actually what's going to teach the dog. Okay, kind of got off on a tangent. Let me get back. So I showed you, you can stop some dogs pulling with this, not many, but you can stop a dog from pulling with a buckle collar. They don't do great at that, okay? You can use the prong collars. You've got the Herm Springer, you've got the 3 millimeter, the 2 1/4 millimeter, you got those. What else do you have? Well, these two things are very similar. This is a Pro Slip collar. This works pretty well, but as I see the ones when I come into y'all's homes and I see these, a lot of you guys have these really fat, 1/2 inch and 3/4 inch, and that's a lot like having a buckle collar. It's super, super wide, and the wider the collar is, the more the dog actually loads into it. So when you're looking at your gentle leader, wherever it's touching the dog, if it's real wide, if the material is very wide, it's going to tell the dog to load more. So I like these slip collars. You have to put them on properly. I'm going to show that here in a second. You have to put them on properly, but then when you do that, okay, what they do is that they choke. They're not going to choke in a way that injures your dog because it's not thin enough to do that, but it chokes. And if it's choking and you change directions and then it goes slack, your dog's brain's going to be like, oh, I was pulling and then the leash started to choke some. And then when I started following them, it goes slack. Oh, maybe I should just walk by their side when it's slack. So you've got this. This is called, we sell these. You can get them at the pet store. They're kind of hard to find though. This is a Pro Slip collar. What's another alternative to teach the dog not to pull on the leash? Well, this is the bigger brother to the slip collar, and this is the slip leash. Yeah, this is a 4-footer. I like to train dogs. I like to train dogs to walk on a slack leash on a 4-foot leash. So, you got all these things. You got these different tools. I've never really been a fan of the gentle leader. I don't want to say that it doesn't work, but we're looking to really reinforce the dog for the right behavior as quick as possible and not to struggle with their bad behaviors. That's why I tend to use some of these more powerful tools, because they effectively tell the dog not to do something, and then I can get to work in telling them this is the thing that I actually want you to do. Hopefully that's helpful for you guys. All right, so hey, Coral, I see that you have a question. How do you keep your dog from going crazy with excitement when you get home, jumping all around and running all through the house like a maniac? Here's the thing, Coral. I'll tell you this, Coral. I want you to go to my YouTube channel. Okay, that's Longoria. If you just go to YouTube and type in Longoria House, that's spelled the German way. Here, let me just put it up on the screen real quick. If you just go in. If you just go to YouTube and type in Longoria House, we actually have some videos of me training 2 dogs in the living room at the same time, and I talk about excitement. I make some excitement so the dogs can make some mistakes. But here it is, okay? How do I keep my dog from going crazy with excitement? Well, number 1, I have leashes on the dogs in the beginning. Now, I'm going to be totally honest with you. I personally am not looking for calm dogs when I walk in the home. I like the excitement for my dogs, but I focus that excitement and I get obedience out of it, because I like to run with excited focus instead of calm and submissive. But if you want calm and submissive, it's just a matter of having a leash on the dog. And then there is a method, a short leash method. It's very simple. I'm going to show it to you right now. There's a short leash method that when you walk in the door, okay, instead of talking, which is probably what's happening that you're doing to calm the dog, first I want you to stop talking. I want you to use a slip leash, okay? If you check out the video, you're going to see the technique described a little bit better than what I can show you here. But here's what I'm going to do, okay? I'm going to use my slip leash. I'm going to put the slip leash on the puppy, okay? I'm going to put it on the dog. And then I'm going to take this piece of leather and I'm going to slide it down right there, right behind the ears. Just like that, okay? I'm going to take that and put it on the puppy. I hope the stuffed animal kind of helps so I can show you that. But you see right here where my fingers are pinched? Right there where my fingers are pinched underneath the puppy, I am going to take and put a knot right there. All right, so I've got this knot right there. All right, next, I'm going to take my left hand, punch it through the loop handle. I'm going to make an L. I'm going to put the leash handle over that and put the leash into my hand. Now I'm going to throw the peace symbol, and I'm going to come back down to that knot. As I do that, I have great amount of control to the dog, and I can then put them on their place and get them to chill out. And I do that by only saying, go to your bed one time. And if I do that on a consistent basis, they're going to understand to calm down when I walk in the door. But if you don't have any kind of equipment on the dog and there's no skill that the dog hasn't been practicing, it's going to be rough. It's not going to be easy because you're going to be pushing, they're going to be jumping more, you're going to be yelling, they're going to bark, then you're going to try to grab them, they're going to run away from you. The leash will change the way that whole thing works. So the leash plus place training will fix the excitement very quickly. Okay, but that's actually what I would do. So, you know, I brought this little puppy out. You should see the looks that I got from my dogs when I brought the puppy out. But I brought this little puppy out because I wanted to show you guys just a couple of things. I'm gonna see if I can get a little bit wider angle here. So I've got this little bit wider angle now. Let me just kind of show you guys a couple of things that I feel people are making this mistake over and over. And really, you know, it's my fault. It's my fault that you guys are making this mistake over and over. I really want you to understand, you know, how to put a leash on your dog properly, especially if you're using the British slip leash, okay? Because here's the thing, if you've got a British slip leash, when you put pressure down the line, it's supposed to collapse like that. I didn't pull very hard right there, but I'm going to show you this. If I keep my hand there, if I just flip the collar the other way and I start pulling, look, I'm pulling hard. Look what the leash is doing. It's doing nothing. And if I just flip my hand and I pull now, see how it fed right there? So if you actually put your British slip leash on the dog wrong, then it doesn't work at all. It's terrible. Okay, so let me teach you this right now, okay? So when you're gonna put a British slip leash on your dog, this piece of leather right here, that's gonna go in the palm of your left hand, and that metal ring needs to be smack dab on top of your hand. The next thing you're going to do is the circular part of rope. Not the long part of the rope, but the circular part of the rope, you're going to put that in your right hand. What it should look like is you should have the leather in the left, the metal ring on the top of your left hand, and then the rope on the right. So hey, just say that with me. Leather left, ring in the middle, rope right. Leather left, rope right, okay? You're going to put it like that. Then what you're going to do is you're going to face up with your dog. You're looking at your dog, okay, looking up your dog, putting that on over the top, cinching it down, and then when you cinch it down, you take that leather ring and slide it down all the way. Now the leash is actually going to function properly. You're going to not be putting a tremendous amount of pressure on the dog because it's actually going to be functional. But if you put it on wrong, then you've got no chance. You've got no chance of really being able to help the dog, of being able to tell the dog, like, hey, I just wanted you to move over this way. So that's a really big deal. I would really, you know, I want you to get that, okay? Let's just look at one other thing, okay? Because I think this next thing I'm going to show you is potentially dangerous. So a lot of people, you know, we like using prong collars, but they're powerful tools, and you got to really know, you know, what a prong collar does. And one of the things that you should never ever do with a prong collar is if you've got your dog and you've got a prong collar, you should not put the prong collar over the top of the dog's head like I just did over my little stuffed animal. You should not do that. The prong collar should not go over the top of the dog's head before you put it down. If you do that, you can injure the dog. I think what I'm going to end up doing is making a video just on prong collars, how to put them on properly. But if you're using a prong collar and you're going over the top of your dog's head, don't do that anymore. Hi, Emily. I see you've got a question there. My dog jumps on other people on walks. Will this leash help? Yeah, it will. You know, the thing that I'll tell you is that you want to do you want to do some training with the dog to show them where they should be. Here's what it boils down to, Emily. It's about choices for your dog. Does your dog know that it's not acceptable for them to jump on people? You've got to introduce the emotional content to tell the dog that I didn't want you to do that. But the main thing that you've got to do is you've got to show your dog that sitting by your left-hand side when people are in front of me is the single best option each and every time that you do that. That's real easy for me to say. But here's what I want you to do. And yeah, I'm going to point you back to my YouTube channel. I think it's somewhere on Facebook too, but if you go to my YouTube channel, I've got a video. Let me see if I can find it real quick, because I really want to help you to wrap your head around this and what you're supposed to be doing right now. So look, I'm on my YouTube, I'm on my iPad right here. In my YouTube channel, I've got some different playlists. I'm going to go actually to the virtual reality dog training playlist. There's 10 videos in there. Okay, so let's see if I can find the one that I want. Okay. Yeah, you know, this one's pretty good. One of the last videos in the playlist is called Gumbo, the Pitbull Mix Learns to Be on the Left-Hand Side. That's actually, Emily, that's actually the first thing that I would do. If you're trying to fix your leash walking, I want you to go watch that video. Here, I'm going to share it up for you, okay? Let me just jump back over here real quick. Oh, copy the link. So, Emily, this is for you. Okay, here it comes. Yeah, if you'll watch that video, Emily, the one that I just put the link up to, I think that's going to actually help you out. Oh yeah, so that's a perfect video for you. I think that'll do wonderful. I do have oh yeah, look, there's another one. Let me just put up this other one too. This is for a golden doodle, but the work is very similar. Okay, very, very similar, and your dog might be like one of these two. Okay, so there you go. There's another video right there. I think that one's going to be very helpful for you. So yeah. Okay. Hey Colton, thanks for joining in tonight, man. Hope you're doing well. Let me just check what time it is. I feel like I've been talking for a minute. Yeah, man, I've been going for 40 minutes. So, and I've got my very cool, fancy German Shepherd Stein here that I've got my Topo Chico with lime. Super awesome stuff. Oh, hey, have you already hit the share button down below? Yeah, because if you haven't done that, you know, that would kind of be super cool of you to share my content. So, yeah, hey, hit that share button down below. Why don't you smash the like, smash the heart button a little bit, smash the angry face button a little bit, you know, give me some emotion here. But yeah, hey, really appreciate each and every one of you guys that's doing this. Hey, if you're just tuning in, we did start a new contest. I am going to be giving away a pair of my favorite dog training balls. Okay, so yes, we're going to be giving these away. All you got to do to enter, it's pretty simple. Okay, so step one, go on over to YouTube after this. So go on over to YouTube after my video. You can maybe go now. Go over to YouTube, and there is a video called, let's see, what's the name of the video? The name of the video, oh, I got to go to the right one. So yeah, step one, go to YouTube. Step two, find the video that's called Remote Collar Training, Conditioning, and Practicing. Go to that video, like the video, and leave a comment. You could just say hello, howdy, what's up, anything, Gigamaggies. You could say any one of those things, okay? If you say any one of those things, we're going to enter you in for our contest. And on Friday at 5 p.m., we're going to pick one lucky winner, you know, to get this dog toy. Look, it's a very simple toy, but it is incredibly effective. Your dog is going to absolutely love it. You're going to play for hours. They're going to come in. You're going to be able to get all those great Tongue Out Tuesday pictures that you've always wanted. Just so much stuff that you can do with this ball. And all you got to do is to subscribe to my channel. And then I'm going to put out great content to help you train your dog for absolutely free. Now, how great is that? Okay, so if that's not enough sales pitch, just help a brother out, okay? Subscribe to the channel. Love you guys. All right, so what's next? Yeah, hey, this is a really good one, and I'll kind of tell you guys a story. How do I get my dog to behave at the veterinarian? I'm actually working with a family right now who they've been working with me for several weeks, And here's the thing. Oh, Emily, hey, you're awesome, Emily. Thanks so much. Emily just subscribed and I just got the notification. So, wow, way to go, Emily. All right, so here we go. How do you get your dog to behave at the veterinarian, okay? So what do you actually do? Like, I've been working with this family for a while now. And unfortunately, and this happens some, unfortunately, their dog is genetically predisposed to being fearful and aggressive. So it's hard at the veterinarian. So how do you get your dog to behave when you have a dog that's fearful and aggressive? Well, bunches and bunches of training. And I'm just going to tell you, we went to the vet recently. It was a great visit by all accounts, but it was still really challenging for the dog. So what do we do to get the dog to behave? Well, we did a ton of place training. We did a ton of leash walk training. We did a ton of double handling, which means two people handling the dog. One person handles the dog, another person handles the dog. We did muzzle conditioning for the dog, okay? And my client, okay, God bless her, she's just doing a ton of work. She's doing a really fantastic job. And the veterinarian, while we were there, I actually came with them this past time to the veterinarian. The veterinarian said, wow, this dog has really made a lot of progress, but I'm going to be honest. The dog tried to bite the veterinarian twice. But you know why it wasn't that big of a deal? Because we were prepared. We had a leash on the dog. We had a muzzle on the dog. The veterinarian got to do a partial examination, but it got a little bit better. We got to share some information with the dog about the veterinarian, that one, you can't treat the veterinarian like that. We did tell the dog no. But then we also provided the dog with a lot of comfort each and every time that he would calm down. So, sometimes it's pretty tough for your dog at the veterinarian. What I recommend to you is find a veterinarian when you're in their office that it's a calm and a relaxed atmosphere. If you're there and you just fear that when you walk in there that it's very tense, look at what you can do to really relax, relax yourself, relax your dog, okay? But if it's always tense when you go in there and you know that the tension is not coming from you, maybe you have to find another way to get in there. Let me just tell you some of the things that I do when I have to go into very busy vets' offices. I don't wait in the waiting room. I don't wait in the waiting room, especially in places that maybe have a very busy wait room. I'll wait outside. When they call my name, I short leash my dog through a crowd right into the examination room. And then I begin to practice my calming techniques with my dog to help them understand that this is a good place. I normally bring my dog in hungry so that way I can use some food and help them to understand. I use a lot of petting. I use my leash. So having a great visit at the veterinarian isn't just about going to the vet, but it's about all the things that you're doing on a daily basis to help assert yourself as your dog's leader, helping them understand that they can rest in your power, and also helping them build trust with other people. So those are some of the things that I actually recommend to you guys. But look, if you're struggling with your dog, hey, I would love to help you, to help your dog to have the vet visits be more enjoyable instead of being something that's a source of anxiety for you and for your dog each and every time you go. All right, so got a couple more. This is a really interesting question to me. So the question is, how do I get my dog to stop chewing up their toys? You don't. You don't get your dog to stop chewing up their toys. I think about this all the time. The dogs, if we're giving them a toy and it truly is something that we give them, if you want to give it to them, let them tear it up. Now, I'm not telling you to let your dog tear up toys that are going to do actually harm to the dog. But if your dog is the kind of destructive type of dog with each and every toy, then you might actually reconsider the toys that you give to your dog to be consumables as opposed to something plastic like this. Let me give you one recommendation that I think might be useful, okay? You could use some of these everlasting, these are made by Starmark, I think is the name of the company, but you could use like the everlasting fun ball, you could use the everlasting treat ball, they've got all these different varieties, but if your dog is going through and destroying all of those, then what I recommend is a bully stick. A bully stick is a fantastic consumable chew for your dog, and they can tear it up, they can play with it, they can do all these things, and it's you just continue to buy those and you think of them more as food than as a toy. Here's what I want you to do when you start thinking about toys. Toys are really meant to interact with. It's like giving a little kid a football. If you give a little kid a football and say go in the backyard and there's nobody out there with it, and that's all there is, maybe they just tear up the football because that's the funnest thing, the most fun thing to do. So when you give your dog a toy, are you actually playing a game with them? Are you getting on the floor? Are you getting down on the ground? Are you tugging with them? Are you biting their legs with your hands like I do? You know, you get down on the floor with the toy and you play through the toy with your dog. You don't give your dog a toy like an iPhone or an iPad or, you know, something else for them to just interact with it. Now, if it's a piece of food, that's different. But if it's truly a toy, play a game. If it's food, if it's a chew toy, if it's a consumable, put them on their place, give them this consumable thing, and let them enjoy that. But the real answer is, you know, you don't get your dog to stop chewing on their toys. You find things that they can chew, and you show them that that's the right thing to do. That's the best advice that I can give. Okay, got just a couple more that I'd like to go through. All right. So let's find one that I like. How do I teach my dog to calm down? You know, this is one that we talk about quite a bit. So, you know, what does it really mean for a dog to be calm? You know, when people think about calm, sometimes we think about position, sometimes we think about like the dog's state of mind, sometimes, you know, there's a lot of different ways to think about calm. So when you're thinking about calm for your dog, it's actually a combination of several things, state of mind and position. The calmest position that your dog can be in is a down. But do you know that there's several different ways that your dog can do a down? So if you ever look at your dog, if your dog is near you right now, look on over at them and look at their hips, especially if they're down. If they're rolled on their side, on their hips, whether they're totally on their side or if they're just on their hips, look at them, look at the dog, and if their hips are rolled over, that is the calmest that your dog can be, if their hips are rolled over. Now, most dogs, if they're not calm, but they're in the down, their hips are squared so that way they can quickly pop up, okay? So the first thing that you want to do about teaching a calm dog is, one, get your dog into the down position. And then you also want to teach them to roll those hips. And then once you do that, this is where it gets a little tricky because not every dog is the same. You need to begin to use rewards that actually continue on the relaxation. Let me tell you something that I think is fascinating that I see all the time. I'll put a dog in a down for the first time. I won't have any food in my hand. And then I'll go and I'll begin to pet the dog's back. And as soon as I begin to touch the dog from its withers to its hips, you see the dog all of a sudden bubble up and they get out of control. What I had intended to be a massage, the dog thought it was very ticklish and now is jumping and licking, jumping on me and licking my face. So when you get your dog into the down position, you're going to have to read the dog and say, okay, how am I going to talk? How fast am I going to dispense the food? What should I be doing with my fingers? Should you be, kind of doing your fingers like this? Should you pet the dog like this, across its back? I'll tell you what I tend to do to try to relax a dog. I start here and then I slowly and very firm, actually, pretty firm, put firm pressure across the dog's back. I'm not necessarily like up in the dog's face like, oh, you're such a good puppy. If I'm trying to calm the dog, I'm not going to come and do this really crazy thing. I want to come and be like, hey, what a good dog you are. Very good. As I begin to pet the dog. Hey, what a good little assistant this is, right? Isn't that cute? So, calming your dog, you want to get them into the down position. I like to have them on elevated beds. And then you want to use the types of reward that are going to be the types that are going to help the dog understand to maintain that state of calmness. And so really, that's where I'm going to go. All right. Well, hey, that's all the questions that I have time for. Hey, I really appreciate each and every one of you guys for watching this. Hey, it really means a lot to me that you would that you'd give me your attention. If there's ever anything that I can do, to help you and your family, this is what I want to do the rest of my life. I want to help people raise happy and reliable dogs, and we have a ton of free resources out there for people. I'm obviously here on Facebook. I'm doing these every Wednesday night. I'm on Instagram. We have some really cool things going on the Instagram. I'm on YouTube, as you guys know. Really, I would encourage any of you guys to, please subscribe to my channel. And why should you subscribe? Well, I'm really just going to try to put out the best content that I possibly can to help you and your dog. Okay. That's really what I want to do. I've got some really cool things. We've got virtual reality dog training videos, which if you own an Oculus Go headset, it is just incredible. If any of you guys have never experienced virtual reality, and it's such a great platform for learning. When you put that headset on and you experience it in 3 dimensions, and it's like sitting here across the table from me, and you get to see all the things that I'm doing with dogs, and then you go and try to do that. I think it's going to be more remarkable for you. But if you're not into all that tech, that's cool. I get it. We've got our newsletter that we send out, okay? If we have the Echo devices where you can get your daily news tip. There's just so many different ways to get connected with us. But hey, it just means the world to me. Like, you saw how my face lit up. If you've been watching this show, you saw how my face lit up when I got a notification that somebody else subscribed to my channel. It just means so much to me. I want to help you and your families to raise that dog, and when I'm able to do that, man, there's just nothing better than that. Well, hey, I love each and every one of you guys. Thanks so much for your attention. If you wouldn't mind, if you haven't already, hit that share button. Hit the share button down in the corner. Share it with your friends. If you've got questions at any time, please reach out to me. I'm happy to help. Love you. Thank you, and good night.